Sports, LLC.
Congratulations to KXNO on their silver anniversary and 25 years on the air in Iowa, being the home of sports talk radio.
We're giving you a chance to experience everything Circa has to offer with a trip along with your favorite KXNO personalities.
The next KXNO Silver Ticket Tour will bring you to Las Vegas and Circa for 4 days, 3 nights. Go to KXNO.com to sign up and have a chance to experience Circa with KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
And we hope to see you soon at Circa.
Live from the TNT Landscaping and Nursery Studios, you're listening to 106.3 KXNO. Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network and 106.3 KXNO.
Good afternoon. Welcome in. Miller and Condon on the air with you at it on a Thursday as we talk the world of sports. Taking you up until 2 o'clock here this afternoon as I'm joined once again by our buddy Nick Marovets, who joins us from Locked On Cyclones. Good to see you once again over there on the east side of the state. What's happening, Nick?
Not a whole lot right now, but I am anxiously awaiting what Milan Momcilovic is doing. I'm sure you're tapped in, but as a Cyclone fan, how could you ignore that situation?
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. Nick's going to join me for the first hour of the program. Coming up in hour number 2, we're going to talk more Big 12 as we'll be joined by Heartland College Sports Matt Postins. Weekly conversation that we have pretty much all throughout the year. And Nick, I'm going to actually go a different direction when I have Matt on. I'm going to talk baseball. I know you as a Cyclone, not something that is real easy for you guys to talk about, as we had Mark Hannerhan, who was part of that team 25 years ago when their program came to a close, sadly. But we're going to talk a little baseball and the seeding. So I love the NCAA baseball tournament. I'm not big during the regular season. I'll watch the Hawkeyes from time to time, but I definitely get into this point. College World Series for the women, a softball side is starting up right now. The storyline with Jason Williams. Now, this is going old school for you, Nick. I'm going to, again, put on my old man hat. J-Will, white chocolate, was a problem. This dude was so much fun. He was cocky. He was arrogant. He made incredible plays. Do yourself a favor. Find yourself a good 5-minute clip of Jason Williams, white chocolate, when he was at Florida, and then when he went on to play with the Sacramento Kings in the NBA. He was an absolute stud. Well, now his daughter had played at Florida, where he played. He transferred to Texas Tech. Last weekend in the Super Regionals, they faced off. She got plunked 5 times by her former team. J-Will, the dad, got ejected and then was brought back in because it was actually the Florida fans that had caused the ruckus, and he was brought back in there. So a lot of storylines. Texas Tech is playing right now in the College World Series. I enjoy it. I also know another reason for it, Nick, and maybe someday you'll get to this point. My daughter now plays softball, and that has taken it to another level for me. I'm on the softball fields a whole lot now, so watching college softball, that's a big step up in competition from 10 UC level that I'm watching my daughter at.
Watching college softball is one of the most underrated sports. Like we talk about the NHL and the NBA is kind of in that conversation when playoffs roll around, but college softball is so fast paced. It's intense. There's so many great storylines every year that the College World Series comes on. I try to find a TV somewhere that I can watch it because it is genuinely one of the most fun experiences as far as watching a sport goes.
Absolutely. And we got the NCAA baseball tournament starting up this week. Next week will be the Super Regionals. Those are awesome. And of course, Omaha and the connection. You ever been to Omaha for the College World Series?
I haven't. Should we go?
I think so. Road trip?
We should. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Road trip. I wouldn't mind doing a show over there. I went a long time ago, some 20 years ago. Been to Omaha a couple of times for Big Ten tournaments when I was played in the championship. Been there twice for that. But yeah, that environment is crazy. I haven't been there with the new stadium for the College World Series, just for the Big Ten tournament. So yeah, that one's definitely on the bucket list. We're pretty lucky here what we have just this close to us here in the state of Iowa with the College World Series. Well, that is Matt Postins. He'll be joining me at 1 o'clock. Then at 1:25, we'll talk some Hawkeyes with David Eickholt from HawkeyeInsider.com. That comes up here at 1:25. But we start today, Nick, with you, and definitely the conversation is very geared around Iowa State. You mentioned Milan Momcilovic. I want to start right here, very simply, because I think that the glimmer of hope that still seems to be there for some Cyclone fans, that he is going to find his way back to Iowa State, and there is a glimmer of hope. I think that glimmer is ridiculous. I don't think there is any shot in the world that he is going to be back. Everything that has been stated, everything that we learned, the process and the amount of money that is being offered by some of the other programs, I put it at 0%, which I very rarely want to do. You always want to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. I don't think there's any wiggle room here. I will fall out of my chair if Milan Momcilovic is back in Ames next season.
Well, to your point, I'm pretty sure they'd have to have a construction crew on standby for the roof. If he came back to Hilton, the crowd would literally blow the roof off of that place. The situation is so interesting because of the Jackson Kiss transfer over to UNLV, right? If that hadn't happened, Iowa State wouldn't have the roster spot, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yet, it's technically possible Milan could join the team. Like, there is a spot for him. But really what I keep coming back to is the money side, because you talked about some of the things that have been said when he was talking about going to the NBA, which now it's official he's not going to. So we have to figure out where in college he's going to go. But when he was talking about going to the NBA, he was talking about how much money am I going to be guaranteed? It was probably going to be a second rounder. So what does that contract look like? It does sound like it's a bit of a money decision. I know it's been said like he's not chasing the bag or whatever, but kind of seems to me like money's pretty big driver in this. So if Iowa State can't shell out the big ones, well, I kind of think they're out of it. I will say that there is a lot of upside to him returning to Iowa State. Obviously, Otzelberger knows how to work him into the system. He knows what Otzelberger can do for him. Look at his development over the last few years. Like, there is a lot that does, in theory, make sense. And we can get into like how he would fit in the roster and all of that kind of stuff. But the thing that makes it so tricky is it's technically possible. So everyone's got their hopes up because, I mean, another year with Milan, who wouldn't be thrilled?
I think you're holding out hope, and that's very good of you. I just don't see it happening. And, you know, you got St. John's involved. You got Kentucky, Louisville. Those are ones that have been kind of bandied about the most. And then 2 days ago, Jeff Goodman brings up Arizona. And regardless of where the destination is, it's going to sting for Cyclone fans. And I get that, seeing him somewhere else after the 3 years and just what a prolific shooter that he was, what a good guy he was. Another one of those Milwaukee pipeline guys that TJ was able to bring in. And that's going to sting. But if you take it a step further and he ends up at Arizona and the epic games that we've seen with Arizona and Iowa State here over the last couple of seasons, him being involved in those games, and then he goes to a conference rival, that is definitely salt in the wounds.
Yeah, that's kind of the point that I was making on today's episode of Locked On Cyclones. Like, if he's not on Iowa State and he does end up at Arizona, what happens? Because I think that's a reason to pursue Milan, is like, you just don't want to have to play him, right? He is pretty incredible. But I also think that he's a guy that Iowa State can handle. I don't think him joining Arizona is going to make them like unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. I do think the same applies to Iowa State. I wouldn't say that Milan joining the roster takes Iowa State from, you know, a top 15 team to a top 2 team, or, you know, a Sweet 16 to a Final Four team. He might take them an extra game in the tournament, but I don't think it's a huge needle mover. And I kind of thought about it in the way that like NBA, 3-point shooting, sharpshooting, extremely important. College, it's not quite the same, especially in the Big 12. And so if he plays for Arizona, those games would be beyond electric, but I'm not necessarily counting Iowa State out of those either, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I definitely get the path that you're going down there. And it's crazy because he is a good player, but that difference maker, a power forward that shoots the ball well in today's college basketball, it's nice to have. But I think you stated very well. I don't think it's a big gap. They go from a team that they're going to be an 8 or 9 seed to they'll be a 2 seed if he comes there.
Right.
The gap is not that significant, even with a player that good that Milan definitely is. The other component, and something that has been fun to watch from afar because I don't have a dog in the fight, is this budding rivalry between Iowa State and Kentucky. Now, this is the weird segments, obviously, of social media. This is Twitter. This is message boards. This is the cesspools that are out there. I understand that part of it. But seeing this, going back to the NCAA tournament, the shots back and forth that have been happening, the money on Kentucky, I didn't even know there were Cyclone fans. I saw that from a Kentucky guy. And then, of course, all the Cyclone fans are going back and forth. This is the offseason rivalry I didn't know I needed, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to kick.
It's really heated up. It really has. Kentucky has been all over Twitter as far as Milan is concerned. I think they've kind of forgotten how the tournament played out based on some of the tweets that I'm reading. And so, like, from Iowa State's perspective, usually what I brought this up last time, the phrase is, if you can't beat them, join them. So it's been interesting from an Iowa State perspective where we did beat them. So joining them doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's been, I feel like Iowa State has the upper hand, but Kentucky has a better shot at bringing in Milan. So it's been a lot of fun, the back and forth. I give Kentucky their credit, but if he plays for Kentucky, it'll be kind of one of those where I'm like, man, why? It's got to be the money.
It's the money. It's very simply the money. And the money coupled with not just for this season, but potentially for the next 2 years. Yeah. Because if the 5-for-5 plays out and we do get that rule change and all these players that are currently in college athletics are granted that extra year of eligibility, if that plays out, that means Milan, look, I don't see a whole lot changing in the way that the NBA people look at him. Great shooter, right. Deficiencies on the defensive end, not a ton of versatility to his game, not an uber athlete by any means. He is what he is. And I don't think there's any kind of offseason that he can put together that is going to change the perception of what he is. But now suddenly you go and you're looking at signing a 2-year deal for $12 million. You talk about life changing. It's nice. Making hundreds of thousands of dollars when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, that's great. Making millions of dollars like that, you're setting yourself up, you're setting your family, you're setting your grandkids up before you even turn 25 years old. And that's another component too. That I believe it's going to be Kentucky. I really do. Okay. I think that Kentucky is going to be the place. They have the money. They have to get dudes. They have swung and missed on so many people in the portal. They got visits from 14 of the top 20 guys from one of the lists. I think it was 24/7's list. They got visits from 14 of the top 20. They didn't get one of those guys. They didn't get one of them. And they've been able to fill in a few gaps, but this is high-end opportunity. It's all going to be there. A chance to go to a blue blood, push them over, maybe save Mark Pope's job. There's a lot there. And for Milan Mincilovic, who is beloved in the Iowa State community currently, when he makes a decision somewhere else, that will change. But to have that opportunity then to be the Kentucky guy that saved a guy's job, that got them over the hump, that got the blue blood back on the right track, that's a guy that can live for a long time in Lexington and make a whole lot of money, not just the $12 million he'll make the next 2 years, but potentially making money like that, signing autographs, kissing babies, doing all the things that go along with it.
Yeah, you make a great point, because if he came back for this year, then there's really no reason to believe he wouldn't come back for yet another year. So I think it's fair to assume he'll probably play more than 1 year in college, which I guess is fun from the perspective of we'll get to watch Milan play a few more years in college. Of course, it'll hurt if it's not at Iowa State. But you bring up a pretty good point there with, what he would do if he left. What would the perception be if he left? And I kind of liken it to what Rocco and Audie are going through. It's not the same. I said I don't think it's the same because Rocco was the face of the football program, was the quarterback, but he wasn't Milan. And Audie was the face of women's basketball. And I think she took Iowa State women's basketball to new heights, but she wasn't the personality that Milan was. Was Milan the face of Iowa State men's basketball? Probably not. No. I mean, Jefferson was in that conversation. I would say Lipsy maybe even more so than Milan, but the personality of Milan made him a very special case. And so I'm curious. Jamie Pollard made it very clear. He will not have his jersey hung. He will not, go in the Hall of Fame if he transfers. But what will the public perception be of Milan? Because he is so loved by Iowa State fans. I don't think it's the same as the way that Rocco or Audie will be looked at next season.
It definitely has a different type of feel than both of those transfers do. And because of that, now here's the other part. I think it also has to play out. Yeah, there's going to be people that are pissed off right away. That's fandom, right? That's the fanatical part of being a fan, obviously, that goes with it. And we love that part of it. We need that part of it. That's what drives what we do every single day, Nick, is those kind of things and that kind of emotion that comes along with it. But by the time the season starts, but here's the thing. If we see Kentucky do those things, and Milan is shooting 55% from three and averaging 19 a game, and Kentucky's a top 12 team, and they're a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they're playing for a shot at the Final Four, and Iowa State has a middling 20-11 year, get to the tournament as an 8 seed, lose in the second round, I think then those hurt feelings are going to come back in a big time way if it plays out in that fashion. Right now, yes, emotion is going to be a part of it. When the decision's made, when the commitment happens somewhere else, yes, that emotion is going to be real and raw, and that's what happens. But I think it also matters how the season plays out, because it could go the other way. If Iowa State has a great year and they break down the door and they finally get back to that Elite Eight and they do it, and Milan has a nice year, but I think that also is going to cure some things too, because, hey, if we would have paid Milan what it would have taken, we wouldn't have been able to get Prather. We wouldn't have been able to get Singleton, whoever it is, we would have been able to get the 5 guys that they brought in, coupled with keeping some of the other players. So it's that hand in hand, the weirdness that now we're talking about in the NIL space of college athletics, that that kind of goes together. You wouldn't have the full complement of the roster if you actually brought Milan back from the get-go.
Exactly. And that was kind of the avenue I went down, talking about how would Otzelberger be perceived if they paid all this money to bring Milan back and then they don't really do much. That's kind of the other side of the coin. If he did come back and they went out in the round of 32, they didn't win the Big 12, you just put Iowa State back, 15 years as far as money is concerned and nothing really to show for it. Yeah. I think that this roster that Otzelberger put together is just incredible. I think it's very similar to last season. You got a lot of personalities and play types that fit well with what we kind of saw last year. I think Bateman will take a huge step forward in the shooting of threes. I think you've got a Singleton that can really bring that big man kind of identity with the guard skills in the four-man frame. Like Otzelberger said, kind of what Milan is a little bit, not from the shooting perspective, but from size. Like, I really like this team. And so I'm completely bought in on it. If Milan joins, they're probably a little bit better, but I don't think that they're in a bad spot by any stretch of the imagination. I think this team can be really, really good. And I think you're right. If Iowa State goes to, let's say, an Elite Eight, just exceeds expectation, plays extremely well, I don't know if it really matters what Kentucky does. You trust Otzelberger. He made the right call. Milan did what was best for him and his family. Everybody wins. If Iowa State fails, you're exactly right. It's probably not looked at the same way.
Nick Marovets joining me here today from Locked On Cyclones. I'm on the Locked On Hawkeye side, and you are on the Iowa Sports Radio Network right now. Stations all across the state of Iowa, including our flagship 106.3 KXNO. A lot of basketball talk there, but headline of yesterday until about 11 o'clock last night or whenever the news broke on Milan was the CyHawk game. We have a kickoff time, as I have speculated here throughout the course of this week. It is going to be under the lights at Kinnick Stadium. 6:30 kickoff, national TV on NBC. Our glimpse at Iowa State, well, it'll start in week 1 against Southeast Missouri State, but really, for both of these teams, it's crazy. Point spread is out there. Iowa, a 12.5-point favorite at FanDuel. That's the first line that I have seen out there. But under the lights, Kinnick Stadium, your thoughts, Nick?
It's going to be an incredible atmosphere at the very least for about a half a quarter. I'll give it that much for sure. That line is a little bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. You asked me a few weeks ago what I thought it was. I think I gave Iowa State 1.5, and you even said that might not be enough. So Iowa getting almost 2 touchdowns is kind of a lot. I don't know if they'll blow the door wide open. I trust in Jimmy Rogers, but obviously that's a little bit premature at this point. I think it'll be super cool just to see how do these guys handle the pressure, because as much as I don't want to give Iowa credit, your guys' home environment is just ridiculous. Everybody talks about it. And so this is by no stretch of the imagination an easy game for Iowa State to start out the year. This is a prove it point right away. And of course, an 11 o'clock game, it's the same teams squaring off. But when you're under the lights, primetime television, it adds a whole nother wrinkle to it. I'm excited to watch. I don't even really care what happens in the game. A CyHawk game under the lights is going to be awesome.
It absolutely is. So I was telling this story yesterday, Nick, as you were, 2002. Were you born yet?
I was. Okay. I was hanging around.
Barely.
Probably watching some CyHawk games.
Barely. I don't think you have memories of that one. Well, I was in college at the time. I lost my wallet in the student section, but the aftermath of that one and some of the changes in tailgating that happened after that 2002 game. Now, it was an all-time epic for Iowa State, down 24-7 at the half, come roaring back. Iowa's only loss, of course, of the regular season came in that game against the Cyclones. It was about as good as the rivalry can be. The game was incredible. Seneca was making just incredible plays up and down the field in that second half comeback. But when we look at this one, talking to Cyclone fans, it's the same thing that we've talked about, Nick. They don't know. They don't know. And any kind of bravado, even though Iowa State's won the last 2 games in Kinnick Stadium and won 3 of the last 4 now in this series, that bravado, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing a whole lot of puffing out the chest because we don't know. You can talk yourself into Jalen Raylor, and you can talk about, I kind of like these wide receivers, and on and on and on, but nobody really knows. And even that first game against Southeast Missouri State, are we even going to know anything after that?
I don't really know. I think that first game is a great opportunity to learn a little bit about like some play styles and maybe who can kind of do what, but against an opponent like that, it's always so tough to really know, is Iowa State using the whole playbook? Are we actually flexing our, because you're going into a game against Iowa where whether you like it or not, that is a big resume builder if you win that game, as far as pushing for a 12-team playoff or whatever kind of spot Iowa State finds themselves in at the end of the season. And so I I hesitate to say we're going to know a ton by the end of that first week, but I do think the Iowa game will be pretty telling. I can't tell you right now what to expect from the wide receiver room. I can't tell you right now exactly what I'm going to get out of the running backs. I have a general idea. I have names that I'm excited to watch, but I can't tell you this is going to happen for sure. I think after that Iowa game, we'll have a really good idea. I don't see Iowa State, Jimmy Rogers, Tyler Roll, Jesse Bobbitt holding back in that game. I think they're okay with kind of showing their hand a little bit just to potentially boost that resume for the year.
So kickoff time for the first game of the year. That's kind of odd, right? For Iowa State, a noon kickoff. Did I see that right?
Yeah. I don't think it's too odd. I'm very used to Iowa State playing early, but what do you make of that one?
11, it starts at 11, and that's the part of it. Now it's also ESPN Plus. You have a lot more flexibility as opposed to a network when it's on the Plus, when it's on a streamer. You can do that. I think it's week 3 in the Big Ten. There's 3 different games at Peacock, and they're all staggered at weird different times that we're used to. So maybe this is our new reality. We have to just get used to this. And it's certainly not like it was even 5 years ago where you knew, all right, this is an okay conference game. It's going to be at 11 o'clock. It's going to start at that one. This one's got a chance at 2:30. It feels like the whole TV environment and with the streaming environment, it's kind of blowing everything up.
Yeah. Well, and when you look at like BYU and UCF being on Fridays now, I believe. So like the whole thing is getting kind of funky, kind of weird. I don't love it. But I think that is what streaming is bringing. There's probably an upside somewhere that I'm missing. But as a traditional fan, I just like everything to be the same. Everybody plays on Saturdays. There's like 4 time slots or whatever it would be. I don't have to think too hard. Now, all of a sudden, I got to pull up not only 8 different streaming sites to watch the games, but I got to pull up all sorts of news releases to find out when and what day, what time are they playing. So I think that's a valid point, actually. Being on ESPN Plus, probably the reason. I think by the end of the season, they'll flex Iowa State into the prime time slot for every game because they're not going to lose.
Oh, wow. Look at that confidence. Swing and a miss on that one. I will tell you one thing. Coming up on Friday, October 9th,
okay.
Both, as you mentioned, the Friday games, both Iowa and Iowa State will be playing on Friday night. Iowa travels out to Washington. That'll be an 8 o'clock Central kickoff for that one against the Huskies, while Iowa State will be out at BYU, 9:15 Central kickoff. So at least we get a little bit of a stagger there. But the next day on Saturday, with both the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes off, every pumpkin patch in this state is going to be jam-packed because all the dads out there are going to say, or all the boyfriends or the husbands, hey, this is going to be your Saturday. You want a Saturday to go out there pumpkin picking or getting some apples or whatever you want to do. This is going to be the Saturday. I haven't looked, though, what the national window is going to be that day. In fact, maybe I should do that. But Probably. Are you do that? You take the lady and we're going to go, this is going to be the pumpkin time. Mark it down right now. October 10th. That is the day.
It is good to have a day, like to know for sure that this is when we're going to go. I'm not worried about Iowa State playing. I was actually just going to ask you the same thing. Is that something you do every year? Because we go out, we love walking around. When we were in Ames, we'd go through the corn maze and look at all the apples and get a caramel apple. Like I think it's a fun little environment. The chilly air, you're wearing your sweatshirt, probably sporting your brand. That is to me fall in a day. Obviously, if football's involved, it's even better. But it really signals that we're in football season. So I make sure to make the most of it. Are you out there or are you just dragging your feet?
No. I'm good. You got the kids, got to make them happy. They're going over. Yep. They're, and anymore, this isn't just a pumpkin patch. I mean, this is an amusement park anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They have set up.
Slides.
I mean, yes, absolutely. And you got to go on the hayride and have fun and have a little apple cider and maybe add a little something extra to that apple cider to warm you up a little bit if it's chilly out there. But, absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a big part of it. So I'm looking through the schedule that day and looking if there's any big national games on Saturday. Stanford at Notre Dame, that doesn't do anything for you, right? 2:30 kickoff for that one. Stanford at Notre Dame. Trying to find some other ranked matchups. USC at Penn State, that one's decent.
Cyclone fans will probably watch that one, I'm sure.
Indiana at Nebraska, okay, potentially decent, but I'm not seeing any must-sees. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, here's one, though. Georgia at Alabama.
Yeah, that would do it.
Hopefully that's under the lights. Let's put that one under the lights, get back home, settle in for that one. You also got Red River that day. The SEC schedule is really, really good that day. So there is a couple, but there's always a window. There's always a window that you can find, but the most important thing, no Hawkeyes, no Cyclones. For most of the state, that means you're going to be able to find a Saturday, go pumpkin picking, and get that wife off your back.
Are you a big jack-o'-lantern guy?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Good,
I make
good.
beauties. I am not artistic at all. I'm awful. Absolutely brutal. My artistic and my musical sense are very, very poor. I'm not a real artsy type of guy. It's all sports for me. But when it comes to that, I don't like digging it out, but I have to, again, with the kids, getting all the junk out of there. But when it comes, I'll find something. I made one year really, I thought a pretty good Chicago Bears one. I made a Hawkeye basketball one year. So yeah, we have a little bit of fun with that. And then the details get too much. And by the end, I just get sick of it. But that's the way it usually goes, right?
Yeah, you gotta bring your A game for at least the first 30 minutes. And then once you're breaking out the nail grinder and the toothpicks, it's getting a little too intense. I'm like, this is just throw a candle in it, put it on the front porch.
No doubt. Nick Marovets, Trent Condon here with you, Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. Coming back on the other side, and we had a long list of topics today. The losing streak is over for the Cubs. We got to talk a little baseball. We will get into that coming up here a little bit later on. A couple other things as well. We got a huge game in the NBA tonight. We're going to tackle that. But one thing on the local front I want to get into with you is the potential contract extension. Jamie Pollard mentioned that they are still working for that contract extension with Iowa State. Only 2 years left on the deal. Is the game coming back after these next 2 seasons? Will there be an extension? We'll talk about it next. It's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Look up how many grams of protein you're supposed to eat in a day. I'll bet you're A, shocked, and B, probably not getting enough. I found an easy way to up my protein is AE Dairy cottage cheese. I've tried them all and they are the best with so many flavors too, including their latest Parmesan garlic cottage cheese. So if you're looking for a quick, delicious snack that's packed with protein, it's AE Dairy cottage cheese. Parmesan garlic cottage cheese is in stores now. Get product info and great recipes at aedairy.com.
Get in on the action with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa is where the pros play. Enjoy the highest limits, lowest takeouts, and competitive betting menus. Download, fund, and bet from anywhere in Iowa. Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com. Must be over 21 and present in Iowa to bet. Have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Live and local every weekday. Statewide on the Iowa Sports Radio Network and everywhere you are on the free iHeartRadio app. This is Des Moines Sports Station. 106.3 KXNO.
Only once a year in Las Vegas.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One,
Is back.
Please put your hands in the air.
One stage, 2 nights.
Are you ready?
featuring the biggest names in music. Live, loud, and always full of surprises.
We're getting this party going on.
Hear it live on iHeartRadio and streaming live on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Listen for the reveal of our 2026 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Tuesday morning at 7.
We want you to come with us. Yep, Mrs. C and I are going to the birthplace of Western civilization, the place where democracy started, where philosophy started, literature, art, and architecture, Greece. We're going to Athens, to Mykonos, to Santorini, September the 5th through the 15th. Walk through history with me and Mrs. C in Athens, the ancient heart of Greece, with a guided visit to the legendary Acropolis. Then we can all escape to Mykonos, where we will have a wonderful tour through the charming Mykonos town. And that's where we're rolling up our sleeves and doing a Greek cooking class. I can't wait. Next, we get to go to Santorini. It's one of the most breathtaking islands in the Aegean. This is Greece at its finest. Culture, cuisine, unforgettable beauty. Space is limited, so call my friends at Ally Travel today. 515-270-7070. That's 515-270-7070. All you have to do is pack your bags.
Voters are listening to the radio, and they're really listening. If you're running for office, radio gets your message heard, not scrolled past. Reach communities everywhere and be on the air in just 48 hours. Go to winwithiheart.com. That's winwithiheart.com.
Hey guys, it's us, the Jonas Brothers. I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Nick. And guess what? We created our own podcast called Hey Jonas.
We invented a podcast?
Well, we didn't invent it. We just contributed to it.
First people to do podcasts.
we get to ask other people questions because we're sick and tired of being asked questions. Well, sick and tired is a strong way to put it, but, tired and sick. Tired and sick. Listen to Hey Jonas on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Hey Jonas and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
More with Miller and Condon in 60 seconds, right here on 106.3 KXNO.
How would you like to finally lose all those unwanted pounds quickly without spending thousands on painful injections or prescriptions? Hi, it's Donna Simpson, health and wellness expert. You probably know someone that is using Ozempic, the hottest diet craze in the country. Everyone knows about this prescription injection. Celebs use it to look their best. The problem is most of us can't afford Ozempic, and these injections can be so uncomfortable. Now you can lose the weight just as easily, but with no needles, no expensive prices, no side effects, and no worries. You need to try Lozempic, a new miracle weight loss breakthrough that performs so well it's been called nature's Ozempic. Lozempic is an easy-to-take diet pill now available without a prescription, being used by thousands to get rid of those unwanted pounds. So call now and find out how to get a free bottle.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Lozempic. Call 800-605-5724, 800-605-5724. Free bottles are limited, so call 800-605-5724. That's 800-605-5724.
After a rough Iowa winter, your roof took a beating. Don't wait for leaks. Get your free inspection and estimate from Wolf Roofing. We'll make sure your home is ready for spring and beyond. Find them online, wolfroofing.net. Wolf Roofing, strong roofs, done right.
You're listening to Miller and Condon on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back. Once again, it's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. I'm Trent Condon, joined today by Nick Marovets from Locked On Cyclones as we break down a little bit of everything here today. Talked a lot of hoops at the top, got into some of the kickoff times. One I didn't mention back, I nailed this one too. So I made my predictions earlier this week for the kickoff times. We were going to find out. I nailed 6:30 NBC for the CyHawk game, Nick. I also nailed 11 o'clock on Black Friday for Iowa, Nebraska. I know as a Hawkeye fan, it helps that I was 110 of the last 11. But there is something that just feels natural. Nebraska for years, it was Colorado before that. It was Oklahoma that they play on Black Friday. So it's been a tradition for them. But now here in our state, it really does feel like a tradition. And there's been some talk, some rumblings that maybe the Black Friday Iowa-Nebraska game would go away. Just as a college football fan, though, I want to get your perspective of that. And somebody, I'm sure, that doesn't like either Iowa or Nebraska. Do you like the Black Friday spot and kind of that spotlight that the Huskers and the Hawks get every year?
Yeah, no, and I think it's really important for college football to keep that kind of tradition because we've talked about what the landscape looks like and how they're probably going to have to reshape everything for it all to work. Like, I don't think you can kind of stick with the old model and sort of change it. Like, you have to refresh everything. I would rather it just go back to the way just the tradition of college football is what makes it so special. All of the stuff around, like, just in each and every game, but then also like the CyHawk week 2 or this game on Black Friday. Like, obviously I don't have a dog in the fight, but there is something to be said about it being the same every single year and knowing it's just, I don't know, it's special. So I'm glad that they're keeping it there.
Absolutely. 11 o'clock CBS for that one, as a bunch of the kickoff times were announced yesterday. Well, we found out the kickoff time for Iowa State, but this potentially could be the final matchup in Kinnick Stadium for the foreseeable future if a contract extension is not reached between Jamie Pollard, the Iowa State AD, and Beth Getz from Iowa. Pollard said in one of the tailgate stops, I think it was last week, that they're working on the extension. He believes that it's going to happen, but there's a whole lot of more parameters on it. One thing I will say, if they do come to some kind of contract, I don't think it's going to be a 10-year deal. And if it is something like that, there's going to be a whole lot of outs. If your conference changes, if the number of conference games that you play change, those kind of things, I think it's going to be a short one, maybe even a 2-year extension if it happens. But I'm still not 100% positive it's even going to happen. Where do you sit as you look at that extension?
I think you're right. I do think it'll be really short. And I didn't even think about having a ton of outs. That's probably, I don't know if that's more likely, but if it does go that route, that will definitely happen. Jamie Pollard was talking about the real holdup right now as far as conversation about whether they were going to do it or not even. It's about that week 0 situation. So if they move the games up a week, he was making it seem like this was this big deal. I guess I really don't understand exactly where he's coming from on that. I feel like he would just move the game, but nonetheless, that's really what they're waiting on to find out if they're going to move where the season starts. Then they would go from there. And so I think if the season moves, you're moving towards a different postseason, and knowing where Iowa State is at, like we've talked about this before, my personal fan perspective is keep it coming. Like I loved it growing up. I think it's been huge. You have a little bit of a different perspective, but just from, my history with the game, I think it's integral to the state of Iowa. So I'd love to see it stay. But from Iowa State's actual, like, what's good for the school perspective, it's probably smarter not to play that game. It's probably smarter to load up on some non-conference wins and go into Big 12, A, healthier, B, more rested, and C, with a better resume. So I don't know if Jamie Pollard, sometimes he makes some erratic decisions and some erratic comments. So I can't tell you exactly what he's thinking. But I do think there's a big piece of this that is looking at where Iowa State is at with a brand new program. And would it be smart to essentially schedule a tougher team than, I don't know who it would be, Akron, right? Like who's tougher, Iowa or Akron? I'm going to give Akron, I'm going to give Iowa State the win over Akron out of those two. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think we're probably leaning towards coming to the end for a while, not forever, but for a while.
That takes it from me in the Iowa perspective, the SEC meetings that have been happening this week. And I read an article last night about the coaches finding out, as somebody from the college football playoff came in and explained how they determine the combatants that get into the college football playoff. And when they went through, and for you, you'll maybe cringe when you hear this, the coaches were pissed because they were taking a look at some of the Big 12 teams from a year ago, BYU, that was on the precipice and things like that. And their resumes, the way that the committee looks at them, stacked up better than some of the teams, including a team like Texas. Yes, it's difficult to go to the swamp and win. I get it. Florida still stunk. And these SEC coaches kind of have this wild idea about it. But the one thing that stood out to me when I was reading through this is we still have not gotten past the very simple sorting tool. What's in your loss column? That's it. And from an Iowa State perspective and from an Iowa perspective, from both of them, does it make more sense to have this game that over the last quarter century has been a coin flip one way or the other? Or does it make more sense to go out there and just schedule a win? Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, it's not exciting for the fan base. But like you said, what makes sense for both teams? If this is how the college football playoffs is going to be determined, very simply, what's in the win and loss column? That's it. Strength of schedule has not mattered nearly as much as I believe it should, but that is the reality. I think for both programs, it would make more sense because a 9-3 Iowa State team, regardless of what your non-conference looks like, they're probably going to get in a 24-team playoff. A 10-2, 9-3 Iowa team, Iowa State maybe they have to get to 10-2 if they play 3 bye games in the non-conference. But regardless of that, that is the new reality. And if that's the way this is going to play out, that's from your football program's perspective, what you have to figure out. It would suck for the state. It would suck for obviously what we're used to in that second week of the season and what we do. But overall, when you're looking about the betterment of your program, if that's what the committee is going to show us, then you got to schedule that way too.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at programs like Iowa and Iowa State, like a Notre Dame losing early on in the season in Northern Illinois. Who are they playing the rest of the season? First off, literally a bunch of cupcakes. So it wasn't even a big deal for them, but also their pedigree. I would say Iowa's closer to what Notre Dame is how they're viewed, but Iowa State is not getting the benefit of the doubt. They're just not. We talked about this like with BYU. BYU had an incredible year last year and didn't even get a shade of the benefit of the doubt. If Iowa State was in that same situation, I don't even think their name would be on the board of bubble teams. Like they would just be like, nope, they're done. It's just not a team that we're considering. So from that perspective, if you want to make the playoff, you have to keep that. You have to basically get rid of that game. However, if you go to 24 teams, does that change the picture? Because I think both of these teams are very capable of making a 24-team playoff. Even this game means that one of these teams will lose. That's someone has to win, someone has to lose. So if either of these teams lose this game, I still think they can both make it in a 24-team playoff. What's your perspective on a 24-team playoff in the future? Do they keep it? Do they get rid of it until a 24-team playoff? I think if it's 24, you can keep this around.
I think so too. I think you can. The one kind of fly in the ointment at this point, though, is what Brett Yormark talked about yesterday. As the Big 12 meetings are starting up today, the coaches are getting in. Yormark was talking to the media a little bit yesterday, and he brought up one of the things that is at the top of his list that he's going to talk to the coaches about is going to a 10-game conference schedule. The Big Ten has talked about this in the past. And with these bloated conferences, with 18 teams in the Big Ten, 16 in the SEC and the Big 12, the 17, including Notre Dame, that comprise the ACC, when you have these huge conferences, it does make sense to play more. But here's the thing. If you do go to 10 conference games, that means you're going to play 5 on the road, 5 at home. Then your non-conference is going to comprise, I believe, of 2 bye games. And that is all that you're going to have. That means that Iowa State goes away. That means that all the rivalries of college football that are out of conference are going away. No more Florida State, Georgia Tech. All these games go away, including the CyHawk game. Unless you're in the same conference, those are going to go away. That would be an awful thing for college football.
Yeah, I agree. The scheduling thing is so dicey because of these conferences being so big. Like, we've kind of put ourselves into a bit of a corner here because we've got, 27 team conferences. Like, how are you going to play everybody? How are you going to evaluate what the wins and losses are worth? Like, you're making weird changes because of the position you've put yourself in. So I'm not like a fan necessarily of that. And if it leads to Iowa State not being able to play Iowa, just literally for that reason alone, because they have to have 2 bye games, like you kind of have to at this point, I don't like that at all. I think probably 10 games makes sense from a conference perspective, but from an Iowa State perspective, if that's the only thing holding back a Cyclone versus Hawkeyes game, like, find a way to make it happen. I want to see it return. That's my biggest thing with it.
And, for Iowa State, if you're substituting out the CyHawk game for a game against Central Florida, that's tough to swallow. Same thing for Iowa. Now, if you're also trading it out and it's a year that you don't play Texas Tech and you think you got a good team and Texas Tech continues to do what they've done the last couple of years, all right, that's big time. But yeah, if you're taking on a bottom feeder, if it's Iowa, sorry, you don't get to play CyHawk this year, you get to play Purdue. Okay. But if you get to play Oregon, that's just a different measuring stick. So you could talk yourself in circles about this. That definitely been the case, but something just to put on the back burner. The SEC, though, they do not want to go to 24. They do not want to go to 24. At least I should say Sankey, their athletic, the president does not want to go there. And when the commissioner says no, everybody kind of has to fall in line. I think so much of it has to do with TV and their partnership with ESPN, because if it goes to 24, those other games will be bid out. ESPN will not have the full opportunity to have all the college football playoff. I think that's a huge part of why the SEC is dragging their feet too.
Another thing, too, that I just thought about was if the Big Ten and the SEC were to split off and Jamie Pollard said, we're not playing you guys in anything anymore, it's not even a conversation we have to have, because apparently we aren't going to touch the Big Ten and the SEC with any of our sports. So the whole situation is very muddy right now. I'd love to get some clarity. It seems like over the summer we'll maybe get some idea with 5-5 potentially going through, and who knows if they're going to move the season. But yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that who knows, maybe the Big Ten and the SEC just split off, and now I guess none of those rivalries that cross that barrier can happen.
One more note. Nick Marovets with me here today, Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. Brendan Sorsby. Ken and I touched on this a little bit yesterday. The request for a reinstatement has been denied by the NCAA. The school is appealing. You have the component of the school president. This is bothering me. And I think this is something that both Hawkeye and Cyclones can unite together after what happened with the gambling investigation 4 years ago with both of the institutions. There cannot be an injunction put in by a judge. The NCAA, they can't relent, can they?
No, I don't see how it's possible. Of course, this is a bigger story because it isn't small market Iowa State or whatever, but I am shocked at the way that the internet is perceiving this issue. It's like Iowa State never happened. Like we're setting precedent here. What was 4 years ago?
Right.
What happened? So I guess that just never existed. That's my biggest thing with this is not even what they do with Sorsby, because to me it's super clear. Like they just can't let him play. But the fact that it's like they're kind of going to work around this, is this possible? Like that precedent was set 4 years ago. It just is plain and simple.
I cannot see a way that you do that, because if you do, you talk about it opening up Pandora's box. And he's got some great lawyers, some lawyers that have won a lot of court cases against the NCAA in the past, and you think that could help him. But if you do this, how can you have rules? There is one rule more than anything that everybody knows in college athletics. There are, every time that you start a season, you go through classes, this is talked about. You cannot bet, and you certainly can't bet on your team. Yes, you can bet on MMA and you can bet on things like that. But in today's environment, you know this. Yeah, it happened 4 years ago, but it happened. Your college eligibility is over. And when you talk about integrity of the game and everything that goes along with it, well, the NCAA has told us it doesn't matter if you're Noah Shannon and you make a $20 bet on the women's basketball team as they're making an incredible run in the NCAA tournament. That doesn't matter. Yet this, they're going to let slide, or they're going to give him a suspension as opposed to his eligibility being gone forever. And talk about class action lawsuits, Hunter Deckers and Noah Shannon and the whole list, and not just football, everybody that was involved, from the baseball team to the wrestling team and on and on and on. You talk about a class action lawsuit, they're going to be coming after the NCAA, all those people from the state of Iowa that got involved.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at here with Brendan Sorsby, talking about he's betting on the Turkish basketball league, Romanian soccer games, obscure doubles tennis matches, Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Who doesn't love to bet on that stuff?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I get it. But you are on a football team. You don't get to do that. You got to wait until your time is up. It's because if you let this go, then it becomes, what am I allowed to gamble on? Essentially, right? And it's not the whole story, but then it gets murky. Like, you don't have a clear answer. Right now, it's you gamble, you're done, period. And I think you have to keep it that way to keep things clear, because otherwise, if they've got the poster that says no gambling, there's 2 words on it. It's pretty simple to understand. If you got a poster that's about, 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall, it's like no gambling, except all of these little potential caveats. And then also it's okay if you do this, but not here. Only in this very niche situation, you could potentially go this avenue. You're going to run into a ton of problems, and then more lawsuits and more question marks. And then the biggest one is the integrity of the game. Like, if you do anything to potentially endanger the integrity of the game, the whole system blows up. And I think all sports fans can get behind, whether you gamble or you don't, or somebody or whatever. Like, ultimately it comes down to, is the game being played right? Is there any collusion going on? Like, nobody wants that, I don't think, at all, except for the people who are in on it. And right. So I just don't see how this can really have any legs. Like, you have to completely shut this down while you still can.
That's Nick Marovets. I'm Trent Condon. We'll take a quick time out. Coming back on the other side. Our topic list was long. We haven't got to many of them, but the Cubs losing streak is over. A sign of things to come. Well, they got Paul Skeens today. We'll talk about that next. It's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Start your day off right with the first quarter with Heather Burnside and Alec Bussey. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
See website for details. BillsHappen.com is not a lender. It does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old. Not available in all states.
Honey, everything is so expensive, and our bills are piling up.
You're telling me credit cards are maxed out, rent is due, and the car payment's right around the corner? We need some extra cash.
We should do what my friend from work did. She went to BillsHappen.com and got the money she needed the next day.
Our credit is not great. Are you sure that would work for us?
BillsHappen.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with all credit types get up to $5,000.
Sounds like it's going to be a hassle.
My friend said it was super easy. She did it right from her phone during her lunch break.
If you have a regular source of income, you can be approved for a loan for up to $5,000, and your cash can hit your bank account the next day. BillsHappen.com's lenders have millions of dollars to lend, regardless of your credit history.
Guess what? I went to BillsHappen.com, and we're getting our money tomorrow.
Wow, that's fast. Problem solved.
If you need extra cash, go to BillsHappen.com. That's BillsHappen.com. BillsHappen.com.
48 countries.
Only one winner.
iHeartRadio and Fox Sports are bringing you every match of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Live. Every unforgettable moment wherever you are. Lock in your preset now on the free iHeartRadio app.
The world will be listening.
This month at Ames Ford, we celebrate American value for American values. Our best price upfront and in writing. Now with employee pricing. Unbeatable value on new Ford and over 175 used and certified pre-owned vehicles. Find the SUV for you with new Ford Explorers and Bronco Sports in stock and now offering employee pricing. Or drive away in the all-new Ford F-150 with employee pricing. These deals won't last. Visit us in-store or online at amesford.com.
Recently, our company's softball team lost the big game by 1 run. Then Dale tried to console us with the quote, "Winning isn't everything." Dale's a loser. I play to win. Like early payout from Bet365. If my team goes up big, I get paid out instantly, even if they blow the lead later.
Sound familiar, Dale?
Bet365. Winning is everything. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Iowa. T&Cs apply. In-app only.
This is Sean Roberts. I want to get serious and talk about those who may have a problem with sports betting. You can spot them a mile away, right? Well, this may be a surprise. Anyone can have a problem. You, me, a friend, a neighbor, or people you admire, people you love. It doesn't matter who you are. What does matter is getting help. Contact 1-800-BETS-OFF. No judgment, just help. Brought to you by the Iowa HHS.
After a rough Iowa winter, your roof took a beating. Don't wait for leaks. Get your free inspection and estimate from Wolf Roofing. We'll make sure your home is ready for spring and beyond. Find them online, wolfroofing.net. Wolf Roofing, strong roofs, done right.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
I was feeling the same way. After 40, the body has less testosterone, and men lose their edge. That's why I take Nugenix Total T2.
That's the testosterone booster, right?
Yes, but Total T2 is their brand new formula that skyrockets nitric oxide levels in as little as 3 hours. Since I started taking it, I've been lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. My energy is way up, and it even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yep, just send a text.
Text EDGE to 321-321 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text EDGE to 321-321. That's EDGE to 321-321.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Ken Miller, Trent Condon, Miller and Condon on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Wrapping up hour number one, Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. Nick Marovets from Locked On Cyclones with me here for hour number one. Got a lot more coming up in hour number two. We'll talk some Big 12. We'll talk some Hawkeyes coming up in the second hour, along with my picks of the day presented by Circus Sports. Well, picks of the day, yesterday, I really wanted to bet on the Cubs. I just couldn't with the 10-game losing streak, Nick. And they looked outstanding. Bats got going once again after the 10-game losing streak is over. But now they got to bounce back here today against Paul Skeens. Good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that if there's any name I know, it's Shohei Ohtani and Paul Skeens. Those are two dogs. At 4.5 games back, what do you think of these Cubs? I mean, we were so high on them just a few weeks ago. I mean, they look okay. Like, they have the ability still.
You know, a 10-game losing streak, and Ken is much more emotional when it comes to kind of everything. He rides the roller coaster a lot higher than I do. Regardless of the team, even teams that I root for, they'll be fine. You know, that kind of thought process. And same thing with the Cubs. I mean, Ken's talking about tearing it down and firing everybody and things like that after the 10-game losing streak. Well, they also had 2 10-game winning streaks on this squad. They've been banged up on the pitching staff. That is hopefully going to get better. I think Boyd's going to make a start for the Cubs coming up this weekend. But yeah, I think they're going to be there. The Brewers are ridiculous right now. Is that going to maintain throughout the course of the season? Are we sure that Wizarowski's shoulder is not going to fall off here at some point? I know about shoulder injuries, and I can tell you, you throw like that. I mean, it's one thing when you're throwing a 55-mile-an-hour fastball like I did. He's doubling that thing up compared to what I was throwing back in the day. So I don't think it's unthinkable that the Cubs are back. You said it. They're 4.5 back. Bats got going. It'll be tough today, but I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. This team is too talented for them to play 450 baseball the rest of the season. They're going to be in good shape. But you mentioned Ohtani. So I flipped it on last night because the hockey game stunk. There was no NBA. Yep. So MLB Network had it last night. I just happened to flip it on right as Ohtani gets a pop out to end the first. He comes up, leads off the bottom half of the first, hits a home run. That dude is so nuts. He is so incredible. And I've watched him for years and years and years now. And it just, every single time, it is jaw-dropping what he does.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know if there's a stronger word. If there is a stronger word, let's use that, because it's mind blowing. You talk about the home run and then what he did the rest of the game as well. Like it's appointment television, and I don't know if baseball has a whole lot of that. So between him and Paul Skeens, like, yeah, you're going to be watching some good baseball, whichever game you turn on.
A ERA now of 0.82 for Shohei. Oh, by the way, his OPS is 886. 6 no-hit innings last night, along with the leadoff homer. Guy is amazing. Hey, Nick, you're amazing for joining us. Thanks for doing it. We'll catch up again next week. How's that sound?
Yeah, you're amazing for having me. Let's do it again.
Nick Marovets, Locked On Cyclones. Check him out each and every day. Your daily Cyclone podcast. Coming up, hour number 2, talking Big 12 with Matt Postins next.
Iowa, it's time for us to learn the facts about drinking alcohol and increased cancer risks. Our state is ranked 4th in the nation for binge drinking, so it's no surprise we have the 4th highest rate of alcohol-related cancers. The more we drink, the more at risk we are. It's time we lower our risk of cancer by drinking less alcohol. Get tips to help reduce your drinking from Your Life Iowa. Visit yourlifeiowa.org to learn more. Source: 2024 Cancer in Iowa Report. A message from Iowa HHS.
You fired up the grill, you strung the lights, you even cleaned the patio furniture. But let's be honest, your cornhole set is an embarrassment. This summer, level up with official American Cornhole League gear. We're talking pro-quality boards, bags, and everything you need to become the undisputed backyard champion of your entire neighborhood. Or at least beat your brother-in-law. Shop now at aclshop.com, because summer's too short for bad cornhole.
Man, whenever I use a sports book, I feel like I'm just getting robbed blind.
Dude, you've got to delete that app. You need to be using Polymarket.
Polymarket? How are they any different?
Polymarket is a prediction market, not a sports book. You trade against other fans just like you, not the house. That means more money for you and less for those greedy sports books.
For real?
Yep. Sports books take around $9 on a $100 position and then pay out around $500. Polymarket pays out $650 on that same position.
What's the catch?
No catch. Even better, it's available in all 50 states. Polymarket is so confident that you'll never go back, they're giving you $50 free on your first trade.
I'm deleting my sportsbook app. How do I get started?
Download Polymarket now and use promo code HEAT for $50 free for your first trade. Stop letting sportsbooks steal from you. Download Polymarket and use promo code HEAT for $50 free on your first trade. Use promo code HEAT.
Trading not available in all jurisdictions. Check local regulations before trading. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply.
With iHeart, everything you hear is guaranteed human. That's why 78% of listeners trust their favorite radio host's product recommendations. If you manage a business or need to drive sales, that trust goes a long way. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. Again, that's iHeartAdvertising.com.
She walked miles with her granddaughters every day at Disney with zero knee pain, but she couldn't have done that months ago. This all started with a visit to QC Kinetics.
We have spent the last 4 days going from park to park, walking all day long, no pain. I feel fantastic.
Here's what baffles people when they hear Kathy's story.
The doctor said, you need 2 full knee replacements. And I said, that's not going to happen. I went to QC Kinetics, started treatment that day. Within a couple of weeks, I was absolutely pain-free.
It's the kind of story that QC Kinetics hears from patients all the time.
I cannot thank QC Kinetics enough for giving me my life back. I'm active again and loving it. I'm well over a year out. I've had absolutely no pain in either knee.
Before you agree to surgery, listen to this. Think about it.
Tomorrow is Animal Kingdom, so yeah, gotta go.
Kathy's glad she took them up on the free consultation. We have one set aside for you.
Call QC Kinetics, 515-259-1227. That's 515-259-1227. 515-259-1227.
When it comes to family law, a lot has changed in recent years, so assumptions can be costly. If you see or sense a change coming in your family life that could have legal implications, it's important to know where you stand. What are your rights and responsibilities? Getting good legal advice early is never a bad idea. I'm Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. If you or anyone you know is facing a family law issue, start with a consultation. Visit CordellCordell.com.
My mission is improving lives, whether it's my team or my clients. And with so much turbulence in the world, can we really put a price tag on peace of mind? Your old buddy Brian here from Service Legends. And in my world, here's what peace of mind looks like. To improve your life, So I pulled the data on our top-notch tune-ups from last year. 98.2% of the systems we maintained are still running like clockwork. I truly believe that's what homeowners like you really want. No breakdowns and getting the absolute most life out of your system. True peace of mind. I have so much confidence in my home comfort heroes and the job they do for Service Legends clients that I'm putting this ironclad 1-year guarantee on the line this summer. In the outside chance your AC does have a challenge after one of our top-notch tune-ups, I'm not only going to refund the cost of your tune-up, I will fix it for free. Look, not all AC tune-ups are created equal, and clearly not all guarantees are either.
Call 515-COMFORT. We fix it right, it's free. Service Legends.
KXNO FM Ankeny, KKTM HD2 Des Moines. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app for all your music, sports talk, and podcasts. Miller and Condon on 106.3 KXNO is sponsored by TC Sports, LLC.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. If you grew up with siblings, you probably remember the moment the balance finally shifted. The younger sibling who used to get pushed around, punched around, winning a few games. The once easy victories disappeared. Frustration was building. Before long, the excuses started flying. That is starting to feel a lot like the SEC. For years, the conference operated with advantages few others could match. Deeper pockets, stronger recruiting pipelines, and a collection of NFL talent with millions in their bank accounts. Now the rest of the country can fight back financially. The Big Ten has started to win the recruiting battles, while SEC dominance on the field is no longer automatic. The gap still exists to an extent, but it is smaller than it used to be, and the reaction from the conference has been telling. Suddenly, there's talk of restructuring the system and maybe even separating from the NCAA altogether. Wow, that was quick. The conference that benefited the most from the old system is starting to look for ways to change the system again. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Time of the year, it's about getting together. Summer weekends, holidays, having people over, firing up the grill, and just enjoying life. And if you're the one doing the grilling, you want something that you can really count on. That's why we love RecTech. RECTEQ. They're wood-fired grills built for moments like this. You get more heat, consistent temperature control, and more stainless steel construction. Built like a tank, made to deliver years of incredible meals. RecTech's consistent temperature control keeps the heat steady, so you get reliable results every time. Whether you're cooking brisket, ribs, burgers, or steaks, top-rated RecTech grilling app will help you along the way to keep an eye on everything from your phone while you spend time with family and friends. Plus, thousands of 5-star reviews and a U.S.-based support team. You're getting a grill you can trust. Your summer plans, make sure your grill is ready. RECTEQ.com. RecTech, built by grillers for grillers.
Congratulations to KXNO on their silver anniversary and 25 years on the air in Iowa, being the home of sports talk radio.
We're giving you a chance to experience everything Circa has to offer with a trip along with your favorite KXNO personalities.
The next KXNO Silver Ticket Tour will bring you to Las Vegas and Circa for 4 days, 3 nights. Go to KXNO.com to sign up and have a chance to experience Circa with KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
And we hope to see you soon at Circa.
Live from the TNT Landscaping and Nursery Studios, you're listening to 106.3 KXNO. 106.3 KXNO. Ken Miller and Trent Condon. It's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back, Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. Ken off today. He will be back with us, though, tomorrow for a Football Friday, minus the football, sadly. It's all right. We'll be okay. We're getting there. Inside 100 days, though, until college football comes back. And I know one guy that's got to be excited about that. He's our next guest, Matt Postins from Heartland College Sports, as he joins us here today. Matt, as always, good to catch up with you. Inside 100 days to college football. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Let's go ahead and get it started now. We got so many unanswered questions out there, and we're gonna spend pretty much the next 3 months just talking them to death until we finally get some games in late August.
It is talking season, no doubt. The Big Ten had their meetings last week. The SEC went at the beginning of the week. Now the Big 12 is getting going, and Brett Yarmark had some conversations that he was talking about and things that he's going to relay to the athletic directors and the football coaches and all the coaches that are out there. 2 items as it pertains to the schedule that certainly drew my interest. Starting first on the basketball side, a potential return back to 20 games in the conference slate. It was 20 for a while, then it moved back to 18 this past season, potentially going back to 20. I think we know both sides of the argument, Matt. It is a grind. As good as the Big 12 is in basketball, playing 20 conference games, it takes a lot out of you. However, doesn't it make sense to play yourself a bunch when you got 16 teams? Kind of what side of the equation are you on that front? And then secondarily, your thoughts overall just on the potential going back to 20.
Yeah, I mean, it is a grind. And that was really the reason they went back to 18. A lot of the coaches talked about just how much of a grind it was to play 20 conference games with no break. Remember when they played that 20-game season, there was no break. They didn't get any kind of a bye during the conference season. They played 10 weeks at 2 games each week. And that's a lot when you're considering these kids are going to school as well. I tend to not like it, honestly. I think that, once you get into conference season, especially with like the Big 12, the SEC, unless you're just a really bad team, and there are very few really bad teams in the Big 12, your NCAA net is pretty much baked in. Like, if you go back and look at the nets for these Big 12 teams at the start of the season and where they were at the end of the regular season, you're going to see they don't vary a whole lot. In fact, Utah's net went up like 20 or 30 points, even though they were pretty bad in Big 12 play. Their net went up because the rest of the conference pulled them up. These teams know that. So they know if they play a 13 or 14 game non-conference where they can mix high major programs with mid majors and even a few what I like to call happy meal games or bye games, then the net that they have is pretty close to going to be the net they're going to have when they get ready for the NCAA tournament. And that's, something that they've been able to cook over the years. I think net needs to be re-examined in that regard. But, I think one reason they're looking at this is, for years, college basketball teams have only been allowed to play 31 games. Starting this year, they'll be allowed to play 32. So if you think about 20 conference games, you still get 12 non-conference games. You can still schedule 4 or 5 high major schools. The rest can be mid majors and low majors. It gives you a little bit more leeway with your schedule in that regard. But I tend to think 18's enough. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much more that helps you if you have 20. I'm sure your mark is looking at the mix of the NCAA tournament too. I think they felt like they should have had 1 or 2 more teams get in this year. Same with the year before. I wonder if there's an analytic that tells them that 20 games helps them get more teams in the tournament, especially with an expanded field.
I could definitely buy that. And I think that would make a whole lot of sense. And we saw this year, Arizona won the regular season crown. We saw Houston before, and there usually is that pretty big gap, but maybe that does matter a little bit more for that middle group and the teams that have been on the bubble the last couple of seasons just getting in. Now, the other part of this is we know the expansion's happening too, and it's going to be much different, I think, for all these bubble teams. That difference between 68 and 76, and Matt, I'm sure you've seen it looking through the last couple of years, the teams that were on the bubble and just how mid so many of them were. They're going to be tournament teams now. Maybe that doesn't matter as much. For a while, I was like, all about 20. Yeah, let's get back there. That just means more conference games. But even for the bubble teams, if you're good enough to be around 500 in a league like the Big 12, you're going to get in anymore with 76 teams.
Yeah, it's a distinct possibility. And remember, this past season, we essentially had 4 bubble teams in this conference the last 3 weeks. TCU, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and I can't recall the 4th, but essentially what happened was TCU played its way off of the bubble and into the tournament. The other 3 didn't. So, the additional 2 conference games with a little more leeway, that might get one of those teams in the tournament next year.
Cincinnati, West Virginia, they would have been tournament teams.
Cincinnati.
It's at 76, but yeah, okay. Now, that's one thing. It's basketball. We're talking about a 32-game season. You got tons of opportunities. College football, you got 12. And there has been plenty of talk as the SEC is finally caught up to the Big 10 and the Big 12 and playing 9 conference games about potentially going to 10. Now, that negates so much of your flexibility as it pertains to non-conference scheduling. And Matt, as you can imagine here in the state of Iowa, that would likely mean the end of CyHawk. If either of the conferences go to 10 conference games, there is not going to be Iowa State anymore. And if it happens in the ACC or the SEC, Georgia Tech, Georgia goes away, and Florida State, and all these great rivalry matchups with teams from different conferences would probably have to go away. I don't want to see that part of it, but what do you think overall of the thoughts of going to 10 conference games?
Well, I think part of this is that if they go to 24 teams in the playoff, they're very likely going to do away with the conference championship games. So then you're thinking to yourself, well, is there value in playing a 10th conference game to help you with the selection committee in terms of, especially the margins for the at-large berths? So it's, to me, I don't really like it because of the lack of flexibility in the schedule. What I think would be really interesting is if they say, okay, you're going to play 10 conference games, but you still have to play one other power conference team, meaning that you would play 11 games against power conference teams. Like you could still play CyHawk that way. You could still play Georgia Tech that way. But then you'd really only get one game with some flexibility. And most of these schools are going to play either, group of 6 schools or FCS schools as money games. So to me, I don't like it. I think they're trying to, create a grind of a season where, you're playing 10 or 11 games against power conference teams. I just don't know how much that helps you on the margins.
Yeah. It is a very difficult conversation. Don't want to have the rivalry games go away, but when you're in a conference and these huge bloated conferences playing each other more, definitely makes sense too. There's a lot that needs to change, as we know. And one thing that isn't changing, it doesn't appear at this point in time, is the structure of the college football playoff. After what we've seen this week from Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, though many of the coaches are happy to go to 24 and help probably their sustainability of staying with their leagues, that is not the case with the commissioner. I believe so much of it has to do with their deal with ESPN, because if this thing expands above 16, then the rights go up for bid once again, and that means Fox can get involved, a streamer can get involved, and I think ESPN and the SEC does not want that to happen. Your takeaway is now the SEC is the team that is alone on the island.
Yeah, it's really weird because a year ago it was the Big Ten is alone on the island, and now the Big 12 and the ACC are with them because the Big Ten has tweaked the proposal to say basically, okay, it's just a 1+23, one group of 6 bid, and then the top 23 other teams get in. We're not worried about how many bids we get per conference. It's just going to be the best 24 teams that get into playoff. And, if I'm Greg Sankey, if my argument is not about television, like you just said, then I'm all for that because I'm probably going to get a half dozen teams in the playoff anyway, because I can structure the conference schedule in a way that helps my teams. They've done away with, they're moving the cupcake games out of November. That's going to help their strength of schedule on their television too. So, if you're the SEC, the only reason not to do it is, like you said, the television portion of it. Yeah, you're right. ESPN controls everything from an SEC standpoint. They control everything from a playoff standpoint. They sublicense some of those first round games to TNT. If they go back to market with a 24-team playoff, absolutely Fox is going to get involved, and Fox is going to win part of the contract, which means some of those SEC games are going to be on Fox. And that's not going to be something that's going to be very happy to ESPN. And if ESPN is not happy and they're your only television partner, then the SEC is not happy. So it's really interesting. He really has dug in his heels on this. And, again, there's the MOU. And as much as Yormark has minimized the MOU over the years, the Big Ten and the SEC are really in control of when the playoff expands because they both have to agree on the format and they both have to agree on the when.
Back to a little basketball. We're talking with Matt Postins from Heartland College Sports. A look at the Big 12 is the decision that came down last night. Milan Momcilovic made the decision. He is coming back to college. Now, I think most everybody outside of those Cardinal and Gold wearing glasses wearers out there think that it's not going to be back in Ames. I know maybe a glimmer of hope. I don't think it's going to happen. But regardless of that, when Arizona started to be mentioned a little bit more for the longest time, last month, it's been Louisville and Kentucky and St. John's. Florida was there for a while, but they got a bunch of guys back. Those were kind of the teams talked about. And now suddenly Arizona is being talked about. Jeff Goodman was the first one that I saw bring that up. If he goes to a conference foe, that stings a whole lot more for Cyclone fans.
Yeah, it does. And when you consider that both Koa Pete and Braden Burrius decided to stay in the NBA draft, then Arizona's got a need for an outside shooter. They have a need for a guy that can shoot the three well. That was one of their perceived deficiencies last season. They really did not have a lot of three-point shooters that were consistent outside of Anthony D'Alorso. And while I don't think it really hurt them, in that NCAA semifinal game because they just got thrown out of the gym, Milan Momcilovic would be a very good antidote to that particular issue for Arizona. It would absolutely sting. But we've got, Adi Crooks is at Oklahoma State now. We've got a couple of Big 12 kids, Jaden Wooten from Oklahoma State at TCU now. This is the way of the world now because conferences cannot bar kids from transferring from one school to another without them sitting out a year. So you're just going to kind of have to live with it. That's where he ends up. And just hope that maybe you only draw Arizona once this year as opposed to twice.
Yeah, the double play would not be nearly as fun if that's plays out, certainly. And the epic games that we've seen the last couple of years. They had the half quarter 2 years ago down in Tucson. Then, of course, last year's Big 12 tournament game, maybe one of the best college basketball games we saw all season long with the Cyclones and the Wildcats. Speaking of hoops, I know you're doing a lot. We got spring football wraps up. You get into a lot of baseball and softball coverage at Heartland College Sports. When you look at the Cyclone roster going into next season, what do you think overall? Just kind of how they fit into the Big 12, where you would rank the team and what Otz has done once again in the portal, brings 5 guys in one weekend, gets them all, and he's ready to go.
Yeah, I think they've got the whole transfer portal thing mastered. And I don't know if they're doing a lot of preparation beforehand, if they're looking at a lot of tape during the season of players. I don't know if Otz has a pot of guys that do that. If he does, good for him, because that's exactly the way you should be doing it. You should have a group of guys out there within your organization that are looking at tape and looking at players that could potentially hit the portal that are good fits for you. I think he does a great job of finding the right guys that fit into his system, that buy into playing defense first, and that can score baskets. I really feel like he brought in a great class, guys that fit what he wants to do. I think there's a really good balance in those guys between how they play defense and how they play offense. He's got some good, really solid players coming back that I think can elevate next year. Bateman and Torrey in particular, I think could be really, really good players next year. Right now, I have them in the top quadrant of the conference. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think Otz has built something incredibly sustainable. He's got the support he needs in the background from the standpoint of NIL and recruiting. He really does have a machine built there. And that's why I think it's going to be really hard to pry him away. If you're a quote unquote blue blood program that wants to hire a new coach like North Carolina couldn't do it. If North Carolina couldn't do it, I find it hard to believe any program is going to be able to pull him out of there, at least until maybe his kids are out of the house and maybe he's looking for a new challenge. But right now, he's just got everything hardwired at Iowa State to be a Sweet 16 and beyond contender from year to year.
And that's the next step, getting over that hump of the Sweet 16. And they definitely have the coach to do that. Otz has been incredible in what he did and what he inherited, how quickly things have got turned around there. 2 more for you. I want to talk a little baseball and softball with you because this Texas Tech story with Jason Williams' daughter, I can't get enough of it. I'm watching the game here in the studio. Earlier today, Texas Tech advances with the victory in the Women's College World Series on the softball side of things, and a baseball question. But we got the Senate bill for college sports, saving college athletics, that was brought out yesterday, bipartisan support. Now, it's still got a lot that needs to be figured out to get there. From a Big 12 perspective, though, was there anything that jumped out to you, anything that you thought would be really good or really bad when you look at it from the Big 12 thought?
From a Big 12 perspective, not really. The one transfer rule is going to be a no-go. That's not going to happen. Pooling media rights, I really don't think that that's going to help college football or college sports overall. I don't think it's going to drive up the value enough to help everybody. There's a lot in that bill. The whole idea of, forcing schools to go back to their regional rivalries is a nice thought, but you're not going to force schools to change conferences over this bill. I read through it and I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is basically a laundry list for the NCAA to go back to what they were doing 4 or 5 years ago, but it's never going to get anywhere, especially when you hear the SEC say they're against pooling media rights today. You want a bill like this to be able to get support from the different conferences because they're going to help move this thing toward passage. I really don't see the Big Ten or the SEC supporting this bill in any way. And of course, because it really doesn't take into account what, the student athlete can do and NIL and things like that from a positive standpoint. I see this thing being in court for years. I don't see it going anywhere, for being totally honest.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And there's just so many parts of it. The SEC, in fact, within the last half hour, just came out with a statement says, no, we are not going to pool our rights. And not a surprise coming from them. Yes. And the Big Ten.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, the Big Ten will have the exact same statement. I mean, they can just copy and paste and put the same thing out there. We know both the SEC and the Big Ten are not going to go for that part of it. All right, Matt, I am enamored with this one. It's probably my age. Jason Williams, he was a cocky white guy. I was a cocky white guy. He had a lot more game to him. The flair, the dramatic, everything. And now we see his daughter playing softball, starting her career at Florida, where he played collegiately, then at Texas Tech. She gets plunked 5 times last weekend. I can't get enough of that story. I was locked and loaded with this softball game today as Texas Tech gets the win against Mississippi State. Am I crazy here? Are you seeing the traffic for softball heating up there at Heartland College Sports?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that between, when Oklahoma was in the league and they were having their run, and Oklahoma State's been a consistent WCWS participant for years, and now obviously Texas Tech in there for the second year in a row, them winning today, if Texas wins against Tennessee later today, then Texas Tech gets a rematch with Texas. They played each other in the championship series last year. There's a lot to like from a Big 12 perspective when it comes to softball, because especially with the addition of Arizona and Arizona State, those are two well-heeled, quote unquote blue blood schools within the construct of college softball. Both of them made the tournament. Arizona State got the supers and lost to Texas in 3 games. It was kind of a shame to see, them only get one school in the Women's College World Series. But Texas Tech has the ability to, make a run. All they have to do is win 3 games, and they're in the championship series against whoever's in the other bracket. So, this was a really good tone setter for them today, because number one, they shut out Mississippi State. They had a hard time getting Florida out their entire super regional. So the pitching was much better today. The offense was there. This is a team built to win a championship, and whether you agree with how they've done it or not, they've done it within the construct of how the game is played now. They've got a great team, and they seem geared toward winning a championship that eluded them a year ago.
Finally, the NCAA baseball tournament begins starting tomorrow, the 64-team field, and it is something that I follow very casually. It is not anything like college basketball is for me, because college basketball is my favorite sport. But boy, year after year looking at this, we argue and complain a lot about the basketball committee and things that they get wrong. But in comparison to the baseball committee, it feels like every single year, seedings that are completely out of whack, mid-majors left out. The Big 12, a very good baseball league, their top 2 teams barely even get hosting bids as the number 15 and 16 seeds respectively. Am I wrong here? Or is the baseball committee, do they do an even worse job than the basketball committee every year?
I don't know. I think the basketball committee is the gold standard for getting it wrong most years. I will say, SEC baseball is sort of like Big Ten football right now, in terms of how it dominates the landscape within that particular sport. West Virginia and Kansas absolutely deserve to have home regionals. You could argue that they deserved higher seeds as a result of their seasons. But, the SEC, their top 5-6 teams are clearly national championship contenders, even though they're the 5th and 6th teams in their conference. Oklahoma State's going to Alabama this weekend. Alabama didn't even win the SEC tournament, but they're a number 7 overall national seed. Alabama's got a great record. They have the ability to go to a national tournament or go to the Men's College World Series. So, I don't necessarily begrudge the SEC getting the seeds they got, because historically that has been a great conference year in and year out. Now, I will say, I think Kansas probably got underserved by its seeding, winning the Big 12 and being so close to, not even being a top 16 seed. They're going to have to go on the road for supers. I think there's definitely some balance that could be achieved by, saying basically with those, top 4 conferences, hey, you guys should be somewhere in the top 8, top 10, something like that. But, it's tough for these committees when it's 64 teams and you've got 30-something automatic bids, and you got to figure out how to get, the right at-large teams in there. But it's a lot of fun because, especially regional weekend, you can pretty much toss out the starting rotations that they've used during the season, especially once you lose a game. it becomes an all hands on deck kind of situation. And now that most of these conference tournaments are not double elimination like they used to be, it gives a different dynamic to the whole weekend. The fact that you've got to lose 2 games to get eliminated.
Matt Postins, Heartland College Sports. Matt, good catching up with you once again. Thanks for your time.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
That's Matt Postins joining us here as we go deep diving a little bit of everything, an off-season conversation, and I'll be listening for the ting. In fact, we got a good game coming up here in the Softball World Series with Texas and Tennessee facing off. That should be a fun one as well if you're getting into that space. We come back on the other side with more Miller and Condon. We're going to turn our tables over to the Hawkeye side of things. CyHawk Under the Lights and a whole lot more with David Eickholt. He joins us from 24/7 Sports on the other side. Stay right there. It's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is available right at your fingertips in Iowa. Trent Condon here for Circa Sports. The Circa Sports Iowa app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Iowa and experience high betting limits, tight money line splits, and exceptional customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
This June, the Legends of Golf return to Des Moines. The 2026 Principal Charity Classic at Wakanda Club, June 10th through 14th, where legends of the game compete and every swing helps support Iowa youth. Bring the whole family. Tickets start at just $25 and kids 15 and under get in free. Get your tickets now at principalcharityclassic.com. The Principal Charity Classic, because out here, it's more than golf.
Happens only once a year in Las Vegas.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One,
is back. Your hands in the air. One stage, 2 nights.
Are you ready? Featuring the biggest names in music. Live, loud, and always full of surprises.
We're getting this party going on.
Hear it live on iHeartRadio and streaming live on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Listen for the reveal of our 2026 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Tuesday morning at 7.
Meet Ronnie. He's got his eyes on the future and wants to convert his old clunker to electric. It just needs a little elbow grease and a whole lot of watts. Don't get your wires crossed. Can you feel the electricity? Ronnie doesn't always make the best life decisions, but even Ronnie knows to never dig without contacting Iowa One Call first.
Hey guys, it's us, the Jonas Brothers. I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Nick. And guess what? We created our own podcast called Hey Jonas.
We invented a podcast?
Well, we didn't invent it. We just contributed to it.
First people to do podcasts. We get to ask other people questions because we're sick and tired of being asked questions.
Well, sick and tired is a strong way to put it, but you know,
Tired and sick.
tired and sick. Listen to Hey Jonas on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Hey Jonas and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
Save big on landscaping projects at Menards. Transform your outdoor living space with easy, no-cut block projects. From fire pits and grill stations to planters and fountains. We offer hundreds of free project plans that are easy to build with no block cutting required. Easily make a raised garden bed using our garden blocks. On sale now through May 31st. Check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Hey guys, it's us, the Jonas Brothers. I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Nick. And guess what? We created our own podcast called Hey Jonas.
We invented a podcast?
Well, we didn't invent it. We just contributed to it.
First people to do podcasts. We get to ask other people questions because we're sick and tired of being asked questions.
Well, sick and tired is a strong way to put it, but you know,
Tired and sick.
tired and sick. Listen to Hey Jonas on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Hey Jonas and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
Ken and Trent are back in 60 seconds right here on 106.3 KXNO.
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Do you remember the last walk-off homer to win the World Series? It's been a while, but the answer is 1993. Do you know when Wolf Roofing started roofing houses? That's right, 1993. Wolf Roofing has been around for a long time. For your next roofing project, put the experience of Wolf Roofing on your side. Find them on the web at wolfroofing.net or give them a call at 515-225-8866 or online wolfroofing.net.
Miller and Condon on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
I didn't know we had that intro in there. My bad. Welcome back. It's Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. I was trying to play some Dua Lipa. There it comes. There we got it. Unbelievable. That's what happens when you put me in charge. Running solo here today. Ken will be back with us tomorrow for a Football Friday. David Eickholt, 24/7 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. I played the wrong song. Bad work out of me. It had some kind of weird intro there. How you doing, David?
Hey, I'm good. You know what, though? It could have been a lot worse of an intro because it was right. It is music people should know by now if they're listening to the station enough, right?
Well, we know my co-host does not know who that is as he struggles with the Dua Lipa.
Because of me and all this, it works out okay, I think.
We're getting there. We're trying to bring him along. When I first started working with Ken, 10 years ago, he used to sing more pop songs, like current top 40 pop songs, than any guy that I knew at that point in time. He was absolutely... But it's really fallen apart here these last couple of years. I guess he just doesn't listen to the top 40 radio anymore, which is disappointing for the old guy.
You know what, though? It's not really surprising because I'll tell you, it's probably the oldest trait about me. I mean, we've talked about how I got, music interests all over the board. At some point, you just start reminiscing to the good old days. And I feel like I'm the old guy shaking his fist at the clouds because I don't like a lot of the stuff right now. I can't even lie to you, Trent. And it's really upsetting me because I thought I at least had another 10 to 15 years in me before I reached that stage.
My musical area goes from about 1988 to about 96. I have not evolved over the last 30 years, so I got a much bigger blind spot than you do. I still do listen, though, when I pop on the radio and I'm not listening to a podcast or listening to sports talk radio, it is usually still the contemporary stuff, and I still like it. I still feel okay, but yeah, that's getting old. Get used to it, Eickholt. It's not going to get any better for you. All right, David Eickholt joining us from HawkeyeInsider.com. Let's talk some Hawks, and let's start with the news from yesterday. We get the kickoff times for the non-conference games, and of course the big one, under the lights, Kinnick Stadium, Iowa State, week 2, 6:30 on NBC. That is going to be a long tailgate, I know, for both Hawkeye and Cyclone fans. We've seen it before. Those night games, they can get a little bleary-eyed in the stands.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And I mean, I don't think there'll be one person in the stands that's not pumped full of liquid courage and, irrational confidence, right? That's usually what happens after an elongated tailgate. I like the move. It'll be really interesting on a ton of fronts because, look, I'm not going to lie to you, Trent. I think this plays in favor of Iowa, quite frankly. I think you think about an Iowa State team that right now has no idea who they are. Jimmy Rogers doesn't know what he has yet, but that's normal when you have such a program overhaul like they have at this point, right? I think it's going to be a kind of a welcome to, I don't want to say the big stage, but a new reality check and a new era for that program. It'll be really interesting to see Iowa favored early, I believe, by 12.5. I won't be surprised if it moves a little bit more post kickoff time. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit upset that there's no 11 a.m. kickoffs in the non-conference. I like my morning games because then I get all my work done. I can actually go watch the games at night. But, it's all good. I think it'll be really interesting. And, I've said it for a couple months now, and people hate that I'm saying this. I think you'll understand where I'm going with this. it's a must-win game for Iowa.
Yeah.
That early in the season. I will put it at that point because you cannot go into that tough conference stretch with a loss in the non-conference. You just can't do it.
So we find out a couple of other things too, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I've nailed this one. We get the home opener against Northern Illinois. That'll be a 3:15 start time, which is certainly not a traditional start time and definitely not on BTN. The streamers, I know they can do things a little bit different. In fact, Iowa State, their home opener will be a noon kickoff. That's ESPN Plus, a little bit easier compared to a TV window when you're on a streamer. But then I also see the game that precedes it on the Big Ten Network. Is Ohio State involved? Is that Ohio State, who has been whining and complaining about noon Eastern kickoffs for years and years and years? Is this their opportunity where they flex their muscle a little bit and at least got another half-hour tailgating? Is that why we get 3:15 as opposed to 2:30 for the NIU game?
I think you've nailed that head on. It's funny, too, because when you think about I think wasn't there a couple of years ago? I need to dig back at this. I think it was Cade McNamara's first game. Wasn't that kickoff like 2:45?
Yes.
I don't think that was a 2:30. I think that was a 2:45. So those kind of weird start times over the last few years, it seems like it is kind of trending in that direction. But as you mentioned, I mean, with Peacock getting involved, heck, who knows when Netflix is going to get involved at this point, right? I mean, all these other streaming platforms. It'll be really interesting. I don't know if the programs particularly like them. And I can't help but laugh because I think about the Arkansas AD, putting out that letter the other day. And you know what my first thought was? Well, Iowa has to go from playing against Ohio State in that it'll probably be a late game. I'm envisioning for that one. And then remember, Iowa has to go to the West Coast, and now they play on Friday night instead of Saturday. So they have Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington in that short of a span. I think they're the ones, Trent, who probably have a little bit more right to complain about. But it'll be interesting. And again, I think you think about KF and you think about how Iowa likes to run their programs. What do they love? They love consistency and sticking to just kind of that tradition and knowing the program. Those weird start times, we've seen it happen before. They can throw off teams, but again, I mean, Iowa's going to be favored by 30. I don't think there's anything to particularly worry about.
Should be okay on that front, no doubt. Well, speaking of scheduling, another part of your Beat It Hawkeye Insider is on the women's basketball, and we find out earlier this week that a home and home has been scheduled. Well, not just anybody, just the 12-time national champion UConn Huskies. What a coup for Jan Jensen. I know Abby does a lot with the scheduling there, not just getting the game as they did last year on a neutral, getting a home and home, that's big time.
A+. I mean, you want to stay relevant. You want to stay among the blue bloods of college, of the sport. You play against the best of the best. Those UConn teams are ridiculous. I mean, you're talking about the national runner-ups, and we talked about this a few months ago. UCLA was a cream of a different crop. I thought they were that good, especially after what they did against Iowa in that Big Ten title. I think I tweeted that that's probably the national champion. I'm sure a lot of people thought that too. But this is really exciting. And I know the 26th game will be a big deal. I believe that's scheduled for November 8th. I think UConn's Twitter account kind of leaked that. But I'm looking toward that 2027 season, right? Because if you talk about Iowa making another deep run, yes, they'll be a top 10 team this year preseason, at least top 12, I would say. Next season, I'm going to go on a limb here. I won't be shocked if they're top 5 preseason if they keep the core together. Because you think about this. They'll have a senior Danny Carnegie, and Iowa fans will get to know her really quick. A senior Chet Wright, a senior Taylor Stremlow, and a senior Ava Hayden. You have a very senior-led, experienced squad with multiple years' experience in Jan Jensen's system taking on UConn in that sort of an atmosphere. I mean, that's going to be a marquee game for probably the entire sport of a non-conference scheduling. It might be one of the best games of the year. And if you want to talk about challenging those top teams, it's going to be a really, really fun early test. And we like, these sort of big games. I know Iowa and Creighton on the men's side, it's still a massive deal. It's not as big of a deal just from a blue blood perspective, but we love great non-conference games. So I applaud both programs for willing to take on the challenge. And I love the home and home idea.
Right there with you. I think it's going to be outstanding, and we'll see. This women's basketball team obviously faltered at the end, but the work they did in the portal, they look to be in really good shape. Well, one thing that you have not been doing, I have not been doing, is pumping the brakes on the Tony Diaz hype train. You had an article earlier this week at Hawkeye Insider with a new quote in there. Not exactly that we can say the full quote on the air, but Tony Diaz comes in from UT Rio Grande Valley. You see Alabama's involved. He cancels his visit there. He's coming to Iowa. We don't know. And then just as soon as practice started, in fact, I got somebody mentioned during workouts that this dude just moves differently. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And then practice starts and he started hearing some things and it has not slowed down. He got banged up towards the end of spring practice, but boy, overall, Tony Diaz, we've fallen for this before. I fell for Caleb Brown. Talk about being dead wrong. I've done this probably too many times in my 25 years of covering this team. I'm buying it again, though. Give me Tony Diaz. What have you heard recently?
Yeah, I think there's a couple layers to that. One, I think there's two different types of angles you could take on the Caleb Brown versus Tony Diaz. The one, Caleb Brown is rightfully, I think he finished the top 75 recruit in his recruiting class. This is a guy who'd been recruited since he was probably 13 or 14 years old. Tony Diaz was not recruited very hard, right? So if you talk about a guy with on his shoulder, he stayed with UT Rio Grande Valley because they were launching a football program. He played an entire year in that program without actually playing a game, and he worked out on his own. Kirk Ferentz has talked about that. So you have a guy with a massive chip on his shoulder. He plays so violently and relentlessly aggressive on those 50-50 balls. And I think you saw a glimpse of it in the all-access spring tape that Iowa Creative Media does the best job in college football, if not top three at least. They're absolutely spectacular. If you have Iowa's media team hyping up a receiver who has not played a single down in the Iowa uniform, I think you have to pay attention to that. He moves differently. I think he's going to need to put on weight. He catches everything coming his way. And you know what he has that Iowa receivers just haven't had throughout the past, I don't know how many years, Trent. There's two things. One, he just has some swagger. Like, you need to have an attitude and a chip on your shoulder if you're going to be a great receiver. It's just a common trend. The second thing, he always believes he's open.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a great thing or a bad thing. And I think for Tony, I think that's going to be a really, really good thing. There's not a pass that he does not think he can get. And that's a very powerful tool. He's got the mental approach pretty well mastered, I think. So I'm very, very excited. I'm with you. I understand if nobody wants to buy stock in Iowa receivers yet. I get it. I get it better than I would say most people. At least I would think so. I'm buying stock in Tony Diaz, Trent. I'm doing it again.
I'm falling for it as well. And come October, hopefully we do not have egg on our face once again. David Eickholt joining us from HawkeyeInsider.com. What other wide receiver? Evan James, the other transfer coming in from the FCS ranks, coming in. What have you heard about him? Is he a rotational piece, a little bit more developmental? What can you tell us about Evan James?
Yeah, I think he's kind of my mystery of the bunch, because I'll say this. I think the top two wide receivers right now are Reese Van Der Zee and Tony Diaz. I think in that order, but we'll see as the season progresses. Wide receivers 3 through 6, man. I mean, I think there's legitimate competition there. I mean, Dayton Howard's going to be in that mix. You know, KJ Parker was the star of spring, I thought. Had a couple of drops, but I thought the way he came back was really, really strong. I think you think about Jarriett Bowie, who I thought was going to transfer this past offseason, and credit to him, he looks really strong. He looked really good from what I've heard. But Evan James, I think he kind of reminds me of Jacob Gill. I think he's a possession receiver that's capable of big plays, and he's consistent with his approach and his work. Quick feet, catches a lot of different things, and Jacob Gill, again, made a lot of big catches for Iowa, and I think Iowa kind of needs that possession receiver. The big thing for me, watching him, he did not obviously participate in the spring open practice, but, you know, he walked by my colleague Elliot Clough and I immediately looked over to Elliot and I said, and I mean this respectfully, I'm like, that dude is small. Like, you think about the Big Ten physicality, meeting a linebacker over the middle. And that's something that KF said he's very, very excited about regarding Diaz and a lot of these transfers. They'll be able to get them in their summer nutrition and weight program to really accelerate that growth. Because, again, Tony needs to put on his weight too. But I really like Evan James. I could see him being as high as the third option on this year's team. I'm going to probably put him around fourth right now, maybe 4.5, between that 4 and 5 spot. But I do think he'll be an impact player. I still love Dayton Howard, though, man. I think if he can put it all together, I think he could come up with some really big catches for Iowa this season.
Last thing for you, David Eickholt, HawkeyeInsider.com, is the point guard recruiting for Ben McCollum's squad. It looks like they're in great shape for the class of 2027 to land a pretty well-regarded guy. There's like 6 names out there, including potentially a reclassification. That's out there also. Caden Daughtry feels like kind of the top of the heap, not just in terms of rankings, but watching that dude, he moves in a different way. When we're talking about Tony Diaz moving in a different way, he's like that as a point guard. What can you fill us in about point guard? Because there's just so many names. It feels like, is it first one to take the offer, or is there more that goes into this when it comes to point guard recruiting?
I think there's a lot of layers to this, and it would take longer than I'm probably allowed as far as this question goes. But I'll say this. I do think there's a legitimate option that if he does reclassify and Iowa gets his commitment, not Daughtry, by the way, I'm talking about, there's rumblings about Davion Thompson out there. He has made the under 18 U.S. team. I think Iowa needs to take him. I think he's absolutely spectacular, can play the 1 or 2 spot. But I'll tell you what, Caden Daughtry, I'm with you. He's the number 1 point guard by 24/7 Sports in 2027. Michigan is very hard after him. I believe he got offered by UConn this past weekend, a lot of other places. But he and Ben McCollum have really hit it off. And I can tell you, Iowa is near the top, if not the top of that recruitment right now. So I think you have to take a top 50 commit if they want to commit. But at the same time, Caden Daughtry, it's not even just a pipe dream for a talent perspective. The way when you watch him play and you talk about him moving differently, Trent, Ben McCollum has to be absolutely salivating at the thought of him running his offense, right? And it's one of those things to where Iowa right now has a luxury. They have great backup plans, but there's a lot of layers and money's involved. I mean, there's so many different levels to this, but I think given what Iowa's had in point guard in recent years, if you're an Iowa fan and you land a top 5 point guard in the class of 2027, you trust Ben McCollum and you need to be absolutely thrilled with it, whoever it may be. But yes, Daughtry is the number 1 target, I would say.
There he is, David Eickholt. David, thank you for your time. Enjoy it. And now what's next for you? You got to figure out your internet. Is that what's going on? Did I see that on Twitter?
Oh, man. Oh, dude, it's been really bad. I don't want to call out the company. If you really care that much, you can go to my Twitter. But it's been a brutal 3 or 4 days. I don't even want to look at how much data my hotspot's been eating.
Yeah.
It's tough, but you know what? Maybe we'll get some credit back. We'll just push through it. Everybody has bigger problems. It is what it is. It's all good.
Thank you, David. We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate you, bud.
David Eickholt, 24/7 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. A lot of recruiting, football recruiting starting to heat up, that point guard recruiting, and they got you covered at Hawkeye Insider. We'll take our final timeout, come back on the other side, and we will bring you my picks of the day. We will look to build on what we've done throughout the course of this week. Took a step back yesterday. Let's take a step forward. My picks presented by Circa Sports. That's next. Miller and Condon on the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
The bench and into the game with Sean Roberts and Lucas Strain. Tune in weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m. on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Life's too short. But what makes it special? Those little moments that happen every day. Those big moments that take your breath away. But no matter the moment, you have to be healthy enough to make them. For women, that means watching our alcohol use as we age, because our bodies can't handle it like they used to, with alcohol-related deaths up nearly 30% over the past few years. Let's put down the drinks so we can savor the moments. Visit yourlifeiowa.org for more info from the Iowa Department of Public Health.
Our yoga instructor challenged us to find inner peace. I found it faster than anyone. After 4 seconds, I stood up and screamed, "I found Nirvana! I win!" They asked me to leave. I guess they don't respect winning. Bet365 does, though. New customers get $200 in bonus bets just for betting $10. Namaste, losers. Bet365. Winning is everything. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Iowa. T&Cs apply. In-app only.
In Des Moines, Chase is proud to root for the home team because they're our team too. We cheer from the bleachers and on the sidelines. We cheer for gymnasts and quarterbacks. And with over 5,000 Chase branches nationwide, we're right beside you, Des Moines. Neighborhood bankers, digital tools, national strength. Chase, make more of what's yours.
JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Urology Center of Iowa offers a full suite of men's health services from low testosterone to managing the effects of aging. UCI is the place to go when you want to be seen like a man, not like a patient. Schedule an appointment with UCI today at iowauro.com.
When it comes to family law, a lot has changed in recent years, so assumptions can be costly. If you see or sense a change coming in your family life that could have legal implications, it's important to know where you stand. What are your rights and responsibilities? Getting good legal advice early is never a bad idea. I'm Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. If you or anyone you know is facing a family law issue, start with a consultation. Visit CordellCordell.com.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season. I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
I was feeling the same way. After 40, the body has less testosterone, and men lose their edge. That's why I take Nugenix Total T2.
That's the testosterone booster, right?
Yes, but Total T2 is their brand new formula that skyrockets nitric oxide levels in as little as 3 hours. Since I started taking it, I've been lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. My energy is way up, and it even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yep, just send a text.
Text EDGE to 321-321 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text EDGE to 321-321. That's EDGE to 321-321.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you're thinking about upgrading your HVAC system, Green's Appliance Heating and Cooling is turning up the value. For a limited time, when you purchase a new qualifying HVAC system, you'll receive a free water heater included. That means improved comfort, better efficiency, and dependable hot water, all in one smart upgrade. Professional installation, trusted local technicians, and comfort you can count on. Don't miss this limited time offer. Call Greens today or schedule online at greensahc.com.
You're listening to Miller and Condon. Off the bench with Sean Roberts and Lucas Strain is on deck here on 106.3 KXNO and the Iowa Sports Radio Network.
Wrapping things up on a Thursday, Miller and Condon wrapping. Sean and Lucas coming your way next, kicking off the 2 o'clock hour. On the road, I believe at Vero here this afternoon. Connor will be coming in studio, taking over for me here. Thanks for being with us as always. Time for my picks of the day. They're presented by Circus Sports, the Circus Sports Iowa app, available to download. Looking for some of the best prices you're going to find, certainly in the baseball market. You will find them with Circa. But not just in Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and other spots across the country. If you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, download the Circa Sports Iowa app today. And on top of it, get signed up for our trip to Circa coming up. Your opportunity to win and head with us to Vegas coming up later this summer. It is our silver anniversary big ticket item. Go to KXNO.com for more details. You get a flight, you got food and drink voucher. Gonna have a great time, VIP experiences. Plus, you get to hang out with me. And if you've hung out with me in Vegas or remember the story, I like to put the fun meter in the red. All right, let's get into my picks of the day. Let's start with a couple of baseball picks. We're going to start with the Cubs. Yes, Paul Skeens has struggled for him lately. And I believe after ending the streak, it continues. Plus 150. Talk about a huge number there. I'll grab the Cubs with pick number 1. Also in baseball, we got 2 prop plays for you, starting with Yordan Alvarez. He has flown over his total of 1.5 total bases the last 2 days. We will continue over 1.5 total bases. And give me Nathan Eovaldi over 5.5 strikeouts with prop number 2. More props. WNBA. We're going right back to the well again with Kennedy Carter over 16.5 points tonight. And Champagny over a half steal. Just need to get a steal in that one. And wrapping things up with a couple of basketball picks this evening. Give me the Valkyries tonight against the Fever, laying -1.5 there, and the Spurs -3.5 against OKC. It is absolutely crazy. And it's so rare at this point of the calendar that we have a lot of local things to talk about. But today, with Milan Momcilovic making his decision to go back to college. The unlikely, in my opinion, chance that he comes back to Ames. We had a ton of content there. The kickoff times, CyHawk going under the lights. We just had a lot of local stuff here. I have a game 6 I couldn't be more excited about tonight. Spurs back at home. We've talked a ton about this series, the breakdown of what it's going to be, the role players. And after, speaking of Champagny, the performance he got in the first half of him, does that continue as they look to force a game 7? Just the hope that we get a game 7. How fun these two young teams have been. I want to see a great game. I want to see the Spurs win it. I want to see a game 7, but we have a 2-over program. But we actually, for once in late May, had so much local content, which is a good thing. That is A-okay. Busy night of hoops, Valkyries, and the Fever. I think that's going to be appointment TV this evening. Baseball, got the Cubs against Skeens. Got a great night in front of us. Let's talk tomorrow. Ken will be back with us, back in his chair as we come to you tomorrow at noon. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Sean and Lucas off the bench coming up next here on the Iowa Sports Radio Network.